S tier is that this character is exceptional, A tier is that this character is pretty strong, B tier is fair or average, C tier is that it has potential, would only really recommend if you're one trick, D tier, this character sucks. We're going to be doing everybody's favorite topic today, tier listing. Now fortunately, during the second closed beta of Wedding Wave, I had the privilege to playtest every single character thanks to the Crew Game Creator server. So we're going to be doing exactly that, ranking every single character today. And I absolutely can't wait to see in 2 months how wrong this tier list is. But with that being said, let's get started, okay? Subscribe. Starting off with Rover. Rover is actually a really good character. He is, or she, if you pick the female version, is the main character of this game. The main strength about Rover is that he or she has a very quick rotation with really good energy generation. His rotation is pretty quick. You just do a charge attack, which basically fill up your entire identity bar, and then you can cast your E into a special attack consuming that bar. And that's basically your entire rotation. It's very quick, it generates really good energy. His ults do a really good amount of damage, but it's also really quick. It's just like really quick burst. But most important is that he just have really good utility. His ult would heal your entire team for a little bit. It's nice for chip damage. His outro is really good. His outro create a time stop field, which basically freezes up the enemy, including bosses, for like about 3 seconds. And it's really good for giving you breathing window or extending your DPS uptime after like a parry or into a stagger. Overall, this character is really good at proccing outro. It's one of the better QTE bot in the entire game just because he generates QTE energy so quick. And overall, I actually put him into the A tier. Keep in mind that this is the Spectre version because this is the only version available in the game right now. But later on, there's going to be more element available to Rover, including Havoc and something like that. So this is the Spectre version only. We can move on to Yinlin. Yinlin is gonna be the second limited character you see in Wedding Wave, and I highly recommend everyone save for this character. The reason is because this is the strongest 5-star character in the game right now. In my opinion, this character is S tier. This character, like Rover, has an extremely quick rotation. It is not as quick, but it's still relatively quick. But most importantly is that this character is just really good at doing damage. She has a lot of ability that allow her to attack in the background. Her skills or her identity skills, which is her charge attack, or her ults, or mark the enemy and allow your teammate to perform coordinated attack. So this is a character that can do damage even while in the background. So you can see these ability will mark the enemy, and then when you or your teammate, which means after you switch out, attack the enemy, you can still do that lightning thunder attack. So she's really good at doing damage with very little field time requirement. Her outro is also really good. It provides 20% electro damage to the next character that switch in, as well as 25% ult damage. Just overall have really good utility when it comes down to her outro, and I highly suspect that this character will be a stable support for any electro team in the future, just because she's so good at doing electro damage. She rotates so quick, which is perfect for being like a damage support. And she has really good outro utility. So therefore, I fully predict this character will be stable in the electro meta going to the S tier. Chixia. So Chixia is a really weird character. Chixia is one of those characters that is really good if you're a god at the game, but for most people, she's not really going to be that good. The main part of Chixia is that she has a very high commitment when it comes down to her skills, or rather her identity skills. The way Chixia identity skills kind of work is you have to hold it down the entire way, because when you hold it down, you start firing bullets and it consumes all these bullets. And you'll see the main problem is that you won't actually be able to commit to your entire skill. Most of the enemy in this game is going to attack you before you get the chance to fire off all your bullets. And you really want to hold it down the entire way because you gain attack the longer you hold it. So you can see like my damage keep going up the longer I hold it. It go from 236 to 241, and then it's like a final hit that come out that do big damage. So you really want to hold it the entire time, but the problem is you can't. On top of the fact that Chixia doesn't have the ability to parry because she's a gun character, that just means she really suffer against really fast, really mobile enemy like the Mepids. I think if you're a beast with this character, she can be one of the better characters in this game, just because if you have perfect understanding of the enemy pattern and you know exactly how you can outrange them, you can have very good DPS uptime. But for most players, I think she actually just go into the C tier. Has potential if you're like a main and you dedicate your entire time studying where you can greet damage. Otherwise, this is a character I wouldn't really recommend, which really sucks because I really like this character. We move on to Lingyang. Lingyang is a horrible character. And the reason why he's horrible is because his entire gimmick, which is his line dance gimmick, doesn't work. So the way Lingyang kind of works is that when you have his bar fully charged, you can do a line dance mechanics where literally airwalk and lets you attack in the air. The main problem with this is that this completely screwed up your hitbox and your hurtbox. It actually does move your hurtbox up and your hitbox up, so you can see like these attack on the ground. I don't have to dodge because they're hitting the ground. But most enemy has such a weird janky attack that they will hit you anyway, and it actually make it really awkward to judge how to dodge properly because you're in the air. On top of the fact that your attack actually does get elevated, so you hit above. And this make it so that you actually can't hit enemy on the ground. Enemy like the bird that have like a diving move, you actually can't hit it because they're on the ground while you're elevated on one level. And it makes it so awkward to play, and half the time you just like end up missing your attack. On top of like other problem, like including that his damage is not really that good and his like string is a little weird. The main problem with Lingyang out of that is just he takes really long to get his identity skill going. You kind of have to do this like line dance drum combo where you weave in your E a little bit in and out, but it just takes so long to get it to charge to actually enter the line dance state, which means he's a little too high commitment. Overall, this character I think he's the worst character in the game, so I actually go into the D tier category, which sucks because he's a 5-star character, and this is my favorite character in terms of personality, but you know, if he sucked, then he sucked. Moving on to Verina. Verina is a weird character because you actually don't play her entire kit. Verina has a weird gimmick where you basically attack to get this bar, and then you can play this bumper card to heal. She, for the most part, is advertised as a healer, but you actually don't do any of that. Verina have a really interesting kit where her E gives your entire team 20% attack buff. It's an extremely low commitment attack where you just cast it very quick to come out, and that's it. It generates very good QTE energy on average. With free cast of your skills, you can generate your entire QTE bar, which allows you to do your outro. Her ult is also pretty good. It kind of heals your entire team a little bit, but most importantly, it also performs coordinated attacks. So it marks the enemy, and when your teammate attack it, they will do a coordinated attack. So it does pretty good damage. The main thing that Verina has going for her is that she's extremely universal for being how quick she is. Basically, the way you play Verina is you ignore every single thing I just said. You switch into her, you cast E, and you switch out. And that's all you do. And the reason why you do that is because you switch in, your E is extremely quick, and it just gives you your entire team a 20% attack buff. It also generates really good QTE energy. And then so after you cast free E, you switch out, you get her outro skill as well, which gives your entire team an additional 15% damage buff. And that lasts for 30 seconds. And so she has very good uptime for being how low commitment she is. And she's extremely universal because she could heal if you want to, but her attack buff is just so easy to get. This is probably the most universal support in the entire game. And I think if you ever don't know who to run, this is going to be your go-to first slot characters. You have your main DPS, your sub DPS, and if you ever have a third slot that's open, this is the character I would put in like always, because she can heal and she gives you so much attack buff for how easy it is to do. Straight up S tier. I mean, this is probably the best character in the entire game. But we move on to DanJin. Okay, why did I put all the S tier character in the list? But DanJin is going to be our third S tier character in Wedding Wave. Fortunately, she's a 4-star, so she's relatively easy to obtain. But I think this one, if you've been following the game, is not too surprising. Everybody has been waving over how crazy DanJin is. She is an extremely low investment, really high damage output DPS. This character is extremely good at doing damage. She basically have like infinite uptime because of the way her work. Her skill doesn't have a cooldown. Her main drawback is that she's always going to be at 1 HP because she's kind of a berserker playstyle character. But if you're doing endgame content, then it don't matter because enemy are going to 1 or 2 shot you anyway. So if you get hit, you're going to die anyway. So the fact that her being at 1 HP actually don't really matter. That being said, her damage output is just absolutely crazy. Her DPS uptime is absolutely crazy. She's one of the lowest investment character to get the highest amount of damage. There's an argument that one single DanJin would outperform a team with 3 characters in it. And so you just have to invest in one character and you can beat teams that have 3 characters in it in terms of damage. This is the character everyone should invest into just because she's such a low investment character for your early game, and you can put her onto the other side of tower if you ever need to. And so this is the character everyone should invest into immediately if you have her at the beginning of the game, I think. Again, S tier. YuanWu. This is a character that I actually at first considered to be S tier because this character is just really good in Electro team. The main thing about YuanWu is that he has the same thing going for him as Verina, and that is while all these gameplay look cool, you just cast E, you put down your totem, and you peace out. That's all you need to do. You don't do anything else. This is the only character in the game that can generate his identity skills while in the background. So that's kind of interesting. When your bar or your ult is full, you can come in to do a quick burst. This character actually has pretty good utility for him because he scale off defense. And when you ult on him, you can actually create a shield for your entire team. And I think this character is a perfect first slaughter for Electro team. I thought about putting him in S tier, but because Yinlin is the S tier, so this character is going to be the first character to replace if any other better Electro support ever come out, or you can just use Verina instead of this characters. So he actually just go into the A tier, unfortunately. But I did thought about putting him into the S tier. We move on to Jiyan, which is the signature poster character of Wedding Wave. Now, Jiyan is a character that excels really good in AoE. His ult is able to do massive AoE damage on top of massive range, but also it automatically group up every single thing near him. So this character is absolutely broken in AoE contact. Now, the problem with this is that endgame in Wedding Wave is mostly revolved around boss fight, so it's all going to be single target, and his single target damage is just fair at best, which is actually really good because this character is broken in AoE and had fair single target damage, so he's pretty good. The biggest problem with this character is that he generates energy kind of slow, so he is really high commitment. He kind of half heal time like a lot, which could make him not synergize that well with some of the support in the game in the futures. But for now, I think this character is fine. Yeah, he is a pretty fair character. Don't really got a lot to say about him. Going to the B tier, we actually have Aalto next. Aalto is actually a really good arrow sub DPS. This is your second slaughter or sub DPS if you ever to pick one for your arrow team. Aalto has a pretty fast rotation. You basically just pop your E, which create this gate. You fire all your bullet over it. You get full bar, and then you run through to go into your mid state, and you can switch out. And that is really good because he's ranged, so he can hit the enemy really easily. And then his move speed gate, you can like cancel all of it by switching characters. It's very useful for repositioning yourself or your entire team. The most impressive part about this character is that his outro is really good. His outro buff the next character's arrow damage by 30%, and that's very universal for almost any other arrow dealer in the game. If you're ever running an arrow team, this character is probably going to be a staple in like any arrow team in the futures. So this is a character that I would put in first if you're ever doing an arrow team. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Going to the A tier. The only problem with this character is that his rotation could be really slow if you miss the bullets on him, but otherwise this character is one of the better characters in the entire game. So yeah, it's pretty standard Ice DPS. You can play her as a main DPS, you can play her as a sub DPS. The main problem is that Ice team is just not really good right now because Lingyang sucks. Other than that, there's not really else to say. She has pretty good damage for being how quick she is. If you play her as a sub DPS, you could just switch in and then pop ult, pop E, and then do your charge attack and switch out. Or if you play her as a main DPS, you can just spam charge attack. Not really a lot to comment on other than the fact that she's a pretty fair Ice sub DPS, main DPS, depending on which one you play for her. Encore, I feel like is one of the characters that has hidden potential in the future. The main thing about Encore is that she has really low commitment for really good damage. She's really good at doing animation cancel just because she has a very high starting frame on her charge attack, her E, or her ult charge attack. So for context, you don't have to watch this animation at all. You can just start this animation and then switch out and then cancel all of it like immediately, which means that she's actually really low field time commitment. It's a pretty good fusion sub DPS. If you ever like don't know what sub DPS to put in, I think Encore could be a pretty good idea. The main problem with Encore is that her ult is a little weird, a little gimmicky. Her ults basically turn you into this melee attacking machine for no reason, but for the most part, you should just probably cancel all of it with the enhanced ult charge attack and then switch out. Yeah, I don't think she's like exceptional, but I don't think she's bad either. So again, going to the fair B tier category. Taoqi. I know Taoqi is like one of people's biggest waifu, but this character is not really that good. Taoqi is their attempt at making a tank in this game. So this is actually a on-fielder. This is like supposed to be a main DPS. She's supposed to tank damage. The problem with that is that means she hog few time, and she's really slow and she's not really that good at doing damage. And she has almost no utility either. The way Taoqi kind of works is that you have to get hit on purpose, which is weird. You basically hold your charge attack to enter this guard state, and then when you get hit, it pops the bubble, which lets you actually proc your identity. It's actually pretty hard and pretty inconsistent to do that, and that's like the only way you can proc your shield. Or you commit an intro for her, like you switch to a different character and commit an intro for her, and then you can proc the identity. But the problem is that even when you do get the condition to proc it, you might not always be able to get all of it off because she attacks so slow. How do you attack so slow, and you have to make sure to hit the next free attack, which could be hard against like enemy that are mobile, and they could have like moved away already by the time you get your identity off. This character is just kind of janky. She hog few time for no reason. She is supposed to be played like as a support utility, but she's more like a main on-fielder tank, and it just doesn't really work. And this character unfortunately going to the C tier. It could work if you're like maximizing your investment on her and building her as like a main DPS, but otherwise this character wouldn't really recommend. Mortefi. Basically, he's really quick. You switch in, cast E, and then cast your enhanced E, switch out. That generate you a lot of QTE energy, and that generate you a lot of ults. His outro is alright, but his ults is really good. Basically, his ults work like Ting Chills from Genshin Impact. Lets whoever characters perform coordinated attacks, which are these things that fire going. The main thing with Mortefi is that he preferred to be used in a team that spam heavy attack instead, because his outro buff heavy attack and his coordinated attack do more damage if you do heavy attack. So he doesn't work that universally, but overall he's a really good character. He just rotates really good. He's really smooth to play, and I can see potential with this character in the futures. Going to the A tier category. Calcharo! Okay, this character is good for one reason, and that is Yinlin is good. So this character going to the A tier. In my opinion, Electro team is going to be best in slot for the near future, just because Yinlin is S tier, and you also have YuanWu or Verina at S and A tier. So you do Yinlin, Verina, Calcharo, or Yinlin, Jiyan, Calcharo as your best in slot team. So he's pretty much just going into here because the other two characters is good. But he does have other good thing about him. He is decently high field time commitment, but not really that high. It's pretty good like burst window. So if you ever get a good DPS window going because of like, for example, enemy stagger, you can pop ult and then just do a really good amount of burst damage. Other than that, this character is a pretty standard main DPS. He's mostly just good because these two characters are really good. Baizhi. Okay, Baizhi has a really big problem, and that is she is a healer. And unfortunately, healers are in general just not really that valuable in my opinion, especially in a game like Wedding Wave, because you can just always dodge. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, you can't always dodge. But the problem with endgame in Wedding Wave, especially against hologram, is that if you get hit, you're gonna die. So you never actually gonna be able to find opportunity to heal. On top of that, Baizhi problem is that she has a really high commitment when it comes down to healing. The way healer work in this game is that you can't just switch them in, click a skill and heal. You actually have to commit resources onto them to actually get the heal. In the case of Baizhi, you have to summon your Pokemon, you have to attack, which is how you get your bar here, and then you cast your E, which is how you actually get your healing off. And that takes so much field time. So that just loses so much damage. On top of the fact that you don't need a healer, which means unfortunately healer in this game are just not going to be really good. She does have decently good utility, including the fact that she buff ice damage and she buff like your entire team's attack. Her Pokemon drop a feather, which let the next character that switch in get an attack buff. Her Aalto has a pretty good attack buff. Her sequence, I think her sequence 6 have a pretty good ice damage buff for your entire team. So overall, this character is a pretty good character of pretty good utility. I thought about putting this character in B tier, but honestly, I'm not really a big fan of running healer in general. I'd rather just run another sub DPS. And if you ever run a healer, this Verina, so I actually end up putting this character in C tier. Okay, and then we got Jianxin, which got all of the previous problem we talked about with Baizhi just now, but worse. So Jianxin is, again, more like a healer. Her problem is that she generates her identity, this chi, extremely slow. You have to attack for so long to get your identity bar up. And until it is full, you can't do anything. You can't do a healing, you can't do your shielding. Even when it is full, this character, you still can't get the shield. The reason why she can't get her shield off is because the way you get your shield or healing off is that once your bar is full, you hold down your charge attack to do this like Tai Chi motion to actually get the shield up. And that takes so long. Look, that takes so long. And no respectable boss in this game is lets you gonna idle for that long. So what's gonna end up happening is that as soon as you start gathering chi right here, the enemy is going to attack you, and then you're forced to cancel all of it, or the boss is going to hit you and interrupt you anyway. So you end up not getting the shield, and without the shield, you don't get the heal either. So basically, this character just doesn't do anything. Her skill on the paper is good. The way her skill works is that the enemy have to attack you first, and then it parry. So her auto parry on her skill doesn't actually work. Her outro is alright. It buff out damage, which is not actually the most useful, because most characters in this game have an ult that modify other aspect about their kit. For example, Jiyan ult actually is considered to be heavy attack because his ult summon all the dragon, and all those dragon are heavy attack, not ult damage. So it doesn't buff that aspect. And finally, her own ult is just not really that good in the boss setting. Her ult has really high utility when it comes down to fighting against a bunch of mob because it has really good grouping. But against bosses, you don't need grouping. So unfortunately, this character's going to the D tier category. But on the bright side is that they did say they're gonna specifically buff these two characters. And now you know why these two characters are gonna get buffed, because they're both D tier characters. Yangyang is actually surprisingly a really good character. She rotates really fast. You can do an intro followed by a E normal attack 4 times, and that got your free bar. Or you can do a E heavy attack and a normal attack 4 times, that got your free bar. And then you can cancel off your final normal attack into a jump punch, which proc your entire kit, this part. Pretty good utility grouping, not the most useful against for bosses, but it could just be nice to have in case you run her in other scenario. Yangyang outro is alright. She gives your next characters a good amount of ult energy. It's not the most useful, but at least it is there. I think overall this character is pretty decent going to the B tier category. Okay, with that being said, that's pretty much all the characters for now. Now, I fully expect this list to easily change in the futures. The main reason is because a lot of characters just don't have other characters that synergize with them right now. For example, DanJin, despite being one of the best characters in the game, doesn't actually have any other character that synergizes really that well with her. And so when there's more character in the futures, maybe there's like a DanJin support, maybe then there's like an actual ice DPS, then all these tier lists is subject to change. But I'm pretty excited to see how this tier list end up being completely wrong 2 months later down the line. So subscribe if you would like to see that as well. And thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Don't flame me in the comment. Bye.